So the Packers versus Jets preseason game just ended, and let's just say it wasn't very pretty for the Packers. 30-10 overall, and of course preseason the score doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who wins these games. The biggest thing I think is, especially looking at lots of these competitions down the roster to see how guys are fighting for some of these final roster spots, but still at the same time, it was pretty ugly for the Packers, especially early on in the first half. And the Packers did start most of their starters who were healthy, offensively and defensively. Jordan Love played for 2 drives. The Packers defense starters outside of the guys who were injured played for a drive. And it was honestly just bad on both sides of the ball. Offensively, there were a ton of drops. And we all know that that was one of the biggest problems last season for the Packers and their receivers was the inability to consistently catch the football. And that was one thing that we know they need to improve on going into this next season. And so it wasn't really great to see them drop just multiple passes in the first half. I think it was either 5 or 6 drops in the first half. I'm not sure if there were many more in the second half. I know there were 5 or 6 in the first half. You had Dobbs dropping one. You had Heath dropping one. One of the other running backs dropped one. Then there were a couple others as well. And it's just not something you want to see. I mean, when you have something like that where clearly I think it's a focal point, an area where you really want to see improvement, and then you come into a game, the first game, you see that happen, you're like, man, like, hopefully this isn't something that continues into the season. Thankfully, Matthew Golden did catch the pass that he was targeted on. I think it was like 3rd and 7, a nice little slant from Jordan Love. Love finds him quickly, catches it great, gets the first down. And that's been one thing with Matthew Golden. All the different reporters throughout all of Packers training camp have been noting how good his hands are. And so, thankfully, with all these other guys dropping passes, Matthew Golden at least seems to have reliable hands. And so that should be a welcome addition here for the Packers offense. And then there was another play with Matthew Golden where Sauce Gardner was covering him. And it was, I believe it was defensive pass interference. So the Packers got another first down. So all in all, I mean, Jordan Love barely played, which is expected in a game like this. You don't want to have your guys out there for too long where they get injured. His final stat line, if you're curious, he goes 1 for 5, 7 yards. So, not very much going there. 39.6 passer rating. Part of that is due to just how poorly the Packers receivers were at catching the football here. And honestly, just looking at this, just the overall assessment of the first half, Matt LaFleur came out and basically said that it was pretty much sloppy offensively, defensively. That wasn't an exact quote. I can try to find the exact quote right here. But, when you've waited all offseason and you come into this game, you'd expect to see a little more energy. It just didn't really feel like there was a ton of energy from this Packers team. I guess, you can debate where you think the blame needs to go there. But here's a quote from LaFleur per Rob Demovsky. Packers coach Matt LaFleur to at Ashley J. Washburn at halftime. Bottom line, we've made mistakes in every facet of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. LaFleur said he told the players at halftime, I want to see some fight out of these guys. It doesn't look like we're playing very inspired football. And so I love to say that's an issue, a problem that it's just a preseason game. It doesn't matter. And that very well could be the case. At the same time, I was thinking back during the game, there are a lot of those games against some of the top tier teams in the NFL, like the Lions, like the Eagles, where the Packers just seemed to start slow in lots of those games. It felt like in so many of those games, they came in with no energy. And so to see them come into this game with not a ton of energy, it's not great. I mean, you would like to see them come in playing tough, playing physical. And I feel like the Jets did that in this game. They played really solid football a lot of the day. And, Justin Fields now in New York, he had one drive, and they just went down the field pretty easily against this Packers starting defense. The Packers were without some, key players like Xavier McKinney, a couple other guys as well. But the Jets looked like they came with energy. They came with, passion, and it just didn't feel like the Packers came with that same level of energy that the Jets came with. So hopefully that's something that the Packers can fix and Matt LaFleur can fix. And, at times last year, that was a problem, I think, in some of those big games, just getting off to slow starts where this team needs to figure out how to get going, faster. And now I want to talk about some of the bright spots from this game. There were a few bright spots. One of the biggest ones, came near the end. It was Amar Johnson's touchdown run, 39-yard touchdown run. Beautiful run, made a nice cutback. And there was also a nice block by rookie Anthony Belton on that one. And that was the Packers' lone touchdown of the day. Of course, with this running back battle, it's going to be tough for Johnson to make the roster just because you have Josh Jacobs, You have Marshawn Lloyd coming back from his injury. Emmanuel Wilson also injured, so we'll see if they come back. Chris Brooks started off early, looked pretty, mostly solid. But maybe another team finds Amar Johnson, picks him up off, if the Packers don't keep him. Or maybe he also ends up on the Packers practice squad. But that was probably the best play of the day for the Packers was that touchdown run. And then there were a few nice plays defensively made by Warren Brinson, draft pick this year, Nazir Stackhouse, undrafted player. Those are two guys who I think could end up being, solid pieces for this defensive line. Behind Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, a few of those other guys. They had some nice plays. JJ Enagbare played a good amount today, and he played really well. And also, I feel like the guy who just kept popping up time and time again was Tyron Hopper. Made a nice play to stop a third down to hold them to, I think it was like 4th and 1, something like that. Playing well. Same with Christian Welch. And just in my mind, it felt like Tyron Hopper just in that game period he seemed a little more consistent to me than Isaiah Simmons. I just sort of noticed him out there more, seemed to make more overall plays. And then the other thing, if you look at Malik Willis, he came into the game after Love, goes 4 for 9, 39 yards, sacked 3 different times, and he had a fumble in the end zone recovered by the Jets for a touchdown. I believe it was Sean Ryan who got beat on that play. So not great football there. And then El Gurzma came in late in the game from Canada, 3 for 4, 24 yards. He had the best stat line, just from passer rating, 89.6 of all these Packers quarterbacks, because there wasn't much going outside of that. And then Sean Clifford, 2 for 4, 14 yards. And so not a lot of takeaways from this game offensively. Barely anything happened. The Packers got sacked. Quarterbacks got sacked 4 different times. And then, looking at these running backs, Abanikanda, 6 carries, 19 yards. Chris Brooks, 5 carries, 17. Jalen White, 2 carries, 16 yards. And Malik Willis, 1 carry for 5 yards. And the leading receiver was Will Shepard. This came near the end, 2 receptions for 20 yards. He's a player from Colorado. So offensively, it was just a pretty ugly day overall. And let's just hope that the Packers can sort of bring intensity when the regular season comes, because if they bring this kind of energy level week 1, it's not going to be pretty against the Detroit Lions. They need to figure out how to come in, bring some energy, and not play sloppy football. There were a ton of holding penalties as well, which was unfortunate. And just overall, if we look at the overall team stats, you can just sort of see how much better the Jets play here. 403 yards for the Jets. Not good for the defense. 188 yards for the Packers offense. The Packers offense went 1 for 10 on third down. The Jets went 8 for 15 on third down. So preseason, not the end of the world, but there are clearly a lot of sloppy mistakes the Packers need to clean up as they head into next week's preseason game. I'll be out with more videos later this week and give some more thoughts probably from this game as well. That's sort of just my initial thought process there. But if you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.